when we look at the traditional interpretation, we look at that same kind of insight, but through a more traditional lens. We see things like the Hopi Indians saying, well, the four disasters that preceded this world ended because humankind forgot to pay attention to the plan of the Creator.
Yeah.
In other words, failed to look at the big picture. And, you know, in the Bible, it's as the people were eating, and well, somebody asked, you know, Jesus when, and I'm not trying to proselytize Christianity here now. I draw from all religious traditions, right? One of the disciples asked Jesus, "When will we know when the next, when the apocalypse comes?" And he says, "Well, as it was in the days of Noah, when the people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that the flood came and swept them all away, so will it be again in the days of the coming of the Son of Man," which is simply a metaphor for the cycle completing itself, right? We can find that idea embedded in all kinds of traditions. The idea that we're not paying attention, and because we're not paying attention, we're vulnerable. See, a eruption or a tornado, or even a drought, whatever the case may be, we as a global civilization need to begin putting the pieces in place to be able to survive an event and lay the groundwork for a sustainable civilization. And I think we can do it. But we don't have forever. That's the problem. And see, again, when we're talking about this, you can say, well, there's inevitably going to be another disaster. We cannot prevent that at this point. Okay, but is it going to happen 1,000 years from now, or 100 years from now, or 10 years from now? We don't know. But the point is you be prudent, and prudence would dictate that you assume that it could happen sooner than later, and you basically put the pieces in place, just like the thing I talked about on Russia today. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the sun and what would happen in the aftermath of a Carrington level event, which is something we know happened back in the 1850s, right? I would recommend anybody who's watching this to go on to our Russia Today and listen to that. And it's very short. It's only, I think, 5 minutes. But the essential idea is that an event equivalent to one that happened in the 19th century, if it happened today, could basically take down our entire communication system. And we could find ourselves, large swaths of the planet could be without power for weeks, right? The satellite system could be completely decimated. This is not a fantasy. This is a very real thing that could happen, right? And I'm not saying, oh, it's going to happen next year. Hopefully not. But it could. That's the point. And having seen it happen just 150 years ago, and the consequence, because it basically took down the incipient telegraph system that was just going into place. I mean, you actually had telegraph operators sitting at their station getting electrocuted, not to death, but getting electrical shocks off of their equipment, having their equipment burst into flames, having the wires burn out and stuff. And that was because Earth got struck by a solar flare, right? So there are things that we could do, for example, to harden our system against those kind of effects. We're not doing that right now, see? And that was kind of part of what I was trying to get at on Russia Today, is things that we could do, but we haven't done them yet. So until we do those things, we're vulnerable. And